Welcome back to the channel. My name's Adam Smith, and today, with Halloween coming around the corner in the very near future, I've created a top 10 instead, and I've got 5 runners up. Folklore, The Affliction, Horrified, Explored, The Domain of Mirrors and Noctis, Dawn of Madness, and Deep of Madness are the 5 which were runners up to the top 10 list but just didn't make the cut. These games are fantastic and I love them, but they just didn't make it into the top 10 of this list. This honorable mentions list is a catch-all for a number of games that I'm either interested in, as they haven't arrived for me yet, but I believe they'll contend for a top 10 or top 15 spot in the future, or potentially games that have been around for under 10 years but I have not played them yet, or games that are not widely available like Solomon Kane, for example. This next list is a number of solo game inductees going into my Rolling Solo Hall of Fame for 2025. These are games originally that released 10 plus years ago. They are very well known in the board game space, in the solo community. These are games that have been around and are still being played and enjoyed today, but they will no longer be eligible for this list or for future list videos of any capacity on the channel, as they are now in my Hall of Fame. And speaking of my Hall of Fame, here is the prior inductees on the list already, and the ones I just mentioned moments ago will be added to this list. So all these games combined are now in the Rolling Solo Hall of Fame and honored as such, and no longer part of any future list videos. And this is going to ensure that future list videos are going to be able to focus on games within the last decade and not games that have been around and are a staple within the solo community for over a decade. With that out of the way, let's now dive into my top 10 solo horror board game list, the 2025 Halloween edition. My number 10 belongs to Final Girl from Van Ryder Games. If you've ever shouted "Don't go in there" at a movie, Final Girl gives you the chance to see if you'd actually survive that situation. You are a lone survivor in the game trying to outthink and outlast a slasher that's faster, stronger, and completely unpredictable. So every card flip feels like it could turn everything around on you, and sometimes that happens in your favor, and sometimes not so much. There is an element of randomness within the game for sure. The tension ramps up really fast though. Even when you think you've got a plan, one bad roll changes everything. The cool part that I like is how cinematic it feels. It's like starring in your own 80s horror flick. Each scenario plays out like a different film with its own killer, twists, and tragic moments. It's short, sharp, and perfectly tuned for solo play. My number 9 is S.T.A.L.K.E.R the board game, coming from Awakened Realms. This one is not your typical monster horror. It is more about the environment and the atmosphere it provides, as well as the survival aspects. S.T.A.L.K.E.R is going to be dropping you into the Chernobyl exclusion zone, where the world feels broken, quiet, and very dangerous. You'll scavenge, explore, and try to stay alive in a place that does not want you there. The horror in the game comes from the tension, the radiation, the strange anomalies you run into, the mutants that'll come after you. It's all about the constant unease of the game itself and the zone. You never really feel safe even when you think you've cleared an area. The zone almost feels alive, like it's watching you make mistakes. It's a mix of tactical gameplay and psychological pressure. S.T.A.L.K.E.R isn't scary in a jump scare way. It's more of a slow creeping dread that you kind of feel as you realize the world's gone wrong and you're still trying to survive inside of it. My number 8 is Resident Evil the board game from Steamforged Games, and in my opinion, you can't talk about board game horror without Resident Evil being part of the equation. This game nails the old school survival horror vibe perfectly. You'll be exploring tight hallways, conserving your ammo as you'd expect in the Resident Evil experience, and praying you don't turn the next corner right into a zombie ambush. Every door that you go through, it feels like a risk all the way through. Every sound and move you make, you second guess your entire plan. What really works though is the pacing of the game. It's deliberately slower than normal, building tension before everything really goes sideways on you inside of a scenario. One bad decision, a failed dice roll, and suddenly you've got chaos on your hands and you've got to make it work. But that's exactly why it works. The fear isn't just about the monsters, it's about the uncertainty of every move you're going to make throughout the game. So fans of the video games will absolutely love how faithful it feels to that, but even if you haven't played them, it captures the same sense of isolation and risk and fear. My number 7 is Etherfields from Awakened Realms, which is a different kind of horror. It's kind of a weird, dreamy, and deeply unsettling style of horror. So instead of monsters lurking in the dark and that kind of primarily being the focus, it's more so on your own subconscious messing with you as you go through gameplay. So you're playing as dreamers traveling through surreal worlds where everything feels kind of slightly off. One minute you're solving puzzles that make sense to you, the next you're walking through something that feels like a bad memory. So the game's art and writing build this constant feeling of uncertainty uncertainty throughout the entire experience. You're never quite sure what's real. It's not scary in the traditional sense, but it's more haunting. It's kind of like being trapped in a dream you can't wake up from. The game's mechanics essentially blend exploration and deck building, so if you like those, you're going to probably like this, but the real magic is the mood of the game in general. But it quietly gets under your skin as you realize that you're essentially inside of what appears to be some type of nightmare. My number 6 is Bloodborne, the board game from CMON Games. Now, if you like your horror gothic and full of monsters that used to be human, Bloodborne is going to deliver for you in every way. Now, of course, if you played the video game, you'll absolutely be at home here as well. You wake up in Yharnam, a city that's lost its mind, where the line between hunter and beast is almost completely gone. Every fight is going to feel desperate in this board game. Every success is going to feel temporary. You're going to get little small hits of dopamine every time you accomplish something, knowing full well there's much more to accomplish as you continue forward, but that is going to keep you going. The game pushes you forward fast, though, forcing you through choices that always have risk tied to them, which makes things amp up quite a bit. You might win a battle but come out weaker for it. That constant pressure is what makes the game tick and work. The horror here, of course, is not about jump scares, as most board games aren't. It's more about the obsession and realizing you're becoming part of the nightmare you're trying to stop. The theme, the art, the mechanics, they all sync up beautifully for this board game, and it captures a sense of horror where victory never feels clean. It just feels like survival of one more turn in a world that's already gone sideways. We are now in top 5 territory, and my number 5 is Cthulhu Death May Die. Now, some horror games are quiet. This one is the opposite. Death May Die throws you headfirst into madness and honestly dares you to enjoy the chaos that you're being put through. You're facing ancient gods, cultists, and things that shouldn't exist, but you're not hiding. You're literally running straight at them with a grin and a handful of dice. The genius here is how it balances the control and the insanity. The more unhinged your character becomes, the more powerful you're going to get. It's a very dangerous trade-off that makes every turn feel like a gamble, and the game has a lot of style and a lot of tension, but it never takes itself too seriously. It's big and dramatic and it's messy, but it's all done in the best way possible, and you're always going to have games that come right down in terms of tension to the wire. It's not about avoiding monsters in most cases with this one, it's about burning everything down before the ritual finishes. My number 4 is Kingdom Death Monster from Adam Poots, and one word to describe this entire game is the word brutal. That is exactly what it is. It doesn't ease you in, it'll literally drop you into a nightmare world and dare you to try and survive it. You start with nothing, you have no weapons, you have no shelter, and you face creatures that are as disturbing as they are deadly. Every battle you are going to go through feels like life or death, because it usually is, about 95% of the time. And what makes the game horrific isn't just the monsters, it's the way it makes you care about your survivors. You're going to be building a settlement, you'll name your people, you'll watch them die horribly. It's literally relentless, but that's the point. There's a strange beauty in the hopelessness, and the art drives that feeling home even more. The game wants you to feel dread mixed with a sense of pride for making it one more session, and that's where the beauty lies within Kingdom Death Monster. It reminds you just how fragile survival really is. It's time for the top 3 solo horror board games. Starting at number 3, Arkham Horror the card game is what happens when mystery turns into madness. You start as an investigator with a clear goal, you find clues, you solve the case, or at least you hope to, and you end up questioning your own sanity all the way along. The storytelling in the game is what sets it apart from other games. Each campaign unfolds like a serialized Lovecraft story. It's got cults, curses, and things that don't obey natural law. The tension's going to build slowly as your deck builds, and your sanity and resources start to fall apart on you. It's clever because it personalizes the horror within the character you're controlling and the deck that is starting to build out as you go. You're not watching a character lose their mind, you literally are feeling it yourself, so every failed test that you have, every encounter is going to push you closer to that breaking point in the game. My number 2 solo horror board game is Nemesis from Awakened Realms, and this includes any edition, whether it's Nemesis the original, the lockdown version, or the retaliation version. Now, few games capture pure tension like Nemesis does. You wake up on a ship, drifting through space, alarms are blaring, and something is moving in the dark. So every noise roll that you make feels like a mistake waiting to happen. The doors are opening and closing, you're checking rooms as you go, and you hope whatever's hunting you is nowhere near where you are for the moment. environment. The fear doesn't come from scripted events, it comes from your decisions you make as you try to progress towards your objectives. You step forward with risks that could potentially wake something up or have something come through a vent. Even when you're doing everything right, the dice can turn your plans into chaos, so things can look real good and then all of a sudden go south really quickly. And that's what makes Nemesis shine. It's unpredictable, and that unpredictability is terrifying within the ship that you're inside of in that original version. Whether you're trying to repair the ship or make it to the escape pod, there's always that voice in your head saying, are you going to make it out alive? And in the top position of my solo horror board games is This War of Mine, the board game, coming most recently from Awakened Realms. This one hits differently than anything else on this list. This War of Mine isn't about monsters or curses or Cthulhu, it's about people trying to survive when the world has fallen apart. You control a small group of civilians in a war-torn city, scavenging for food, dealing with illness, and making impossible moral choices. The horror isn't supernatural here, it's emotional. You'll be facing situations where there's no good answer for what you're doing. It's literally a choice between bad and worse. It's one of the few games that will genuinely make you stop and think about what you're doing. The diary system pulls you deep into the story, and by the end you literally feel connected to the characters in a way most games will never achieve. It's heavy, it's depressing in times, and it's very powerful. This War of Mine doesn't try to scare you, it just tries to show you how horrifying survival can really be in the real world. And that's going to wrap up my list. Let me know in the comments down below if there's any games I missed that you think the solo community should be aware of. Thanks again for watching, and as always, keep on rolling solo.